Considering joining spusu Mobile, in this video, we've reviewed spusu to see if they're any good, based on their speeds and coverage, customer service, value for money, and more. But before we begin, if you're looking for a new phone or SIM-only deal, click the link in the description to greensmartphones.com to find the cheapest prices on the market when you're watching this. Just click on a phone you want to buy, or choose SIM-only up here, and you can instantly view the cheapest deals on the market, no matter how much monthly data you need, what contract length you want, and what mobile networks you'd consider using. Spusu is a mobile virtual network operator, meaning they don't have their own network masts. Instead, they use the EE network to provide service to customers. They're a relatively small provider with a focus on SIM-only plans with monthly rolling contracts, although they also have a few different phones you can buy, mostly cheaper Samsung Galaxy A series handsets, for a one-off price if you want to buy a phone as well. Spusu entered the UK market quite recently, but they're not a new company. They've been an ISP and a mobile carrier in Austria since 2015, so they do know what they're doing. Since spusu uses the EE network, their coverage is really good. EE has the best 4G coverage of any of the big four networks in the UK, meaning you'll often find they, and therefore spusu, will offer signal in areas that other providers don't, especially in small towns and villages, and other remote locations in the countryside. In terms of 4G speeds, spusu also performs really well, but the EE network is a bit of a letdown when it comes to 5G. They have really good 5G coverage in less populated areas, but their speeds aren't the best, especially in major cities, compared to some other networks. This is a report from Ookla, the company that runs speedtest.net, where they've looked at data from a few million speed tests carried out on the three Vodafone, EE, and O2 networks, the big four carriers in the UK that all other network providers use. As you can see from the data here, EE is only the third fastest 5G network in the UK, with average speeds less than half that of 3 at the moment. And in certain cities, they perform even worse, offering the slowest 5G in Birmingham and Manchester, although they are still third fastest in London. So if you live in a major city and are looking for the fastest possible 5G speeds, spusu on the EE network isn't the best choice. Something on 3, like 3 itself, or Smarty, would probably be a better choice in this scenario. But if you live in the countryside, or often travel there, spusu is still a really good choice. And while EE's 5G speeds aren't the best, their 4G coverage in general, not just in the countryside, is also really good. So spusu is also worth considering if you often get dropouts on other networks in your area. Remember, click the link in the description to greensmartphones.com if you're in the market for a new phone or SIM-only plan. Then once you find a deal that looks good, click more details, then click through to the coverage checker for the network the tariff is on, then put in your postcode to get an idea of what coverage is like in your area with that carrier. Spusu's roaming allowances are decent in the EU, but beyond that, you might run into trouble. On their SIM-only deals, they're really clear about their roaming allowances, which is good, and they also give you inclusive minutes to call back to the UK instead of just data, which is a nice touch. But on some of these plans, the data allowance is a bit restrictive. On the unlimited data plan, for example, you only get 15 GB to use overseas, instead of the 50 GB you get if you buy with EE directly, although it will be more expensive with them, or the 20 GB that O2 gives you. These allowances aren't the worst on the market, but we would like to see them a touch higher, especially on the unlimited and the 60 GB plan. The range of countries included for roaming is pretty good, although the inclusive minutes are restricted in these countries. Outside of the EU though, for example if you go to Turkey, you can't get inclusive roaming with spusu. You'll have to pay per megabyte of data used, or per minute of calling, and this can get really expensive really quickly. So if you often go further afield, you'll probably need to buy a foreign SIM card to continue getting online on your phone as a spusu customer. So to see if spusu offers good value for money, let's compare their plans to other similar SIM-only deals on greensmartphones.com. Let's say you want 30 GB of monthly data. This is £10 a month with spusu at the moment. So we've come to our SIM-only page, and we'll set these sliders to 30 GB. The cheapest option overall is £8 a month, which can come down to just 4 with cashback, but this is on a 12-month contract, so if we adjust the filter again, we can see these deals start at £7 a month if you don't want to commit for the long term. This is on the ID mobile network, which uses 3, and you can also get a similar deal with Lebara on the Vodafone network for £9 a month. So here, spusu is pretty good value for money, because you're paying just £1 extra per month to use the EE network, which is normally extremely expensive. But what if you want unlimited data? With spusu, it's £30 a month, and with other networks, it begins at just £15 with ID Mobile, or £16 with Smarty on the 3 network, £25 with Lebara, and also £25 with 1P Mobile, which also uses the EE network. So spusu isn't the cheapest MVNO on the market. They can offer good value for money on some of their plans, but if you want a high data limit, they're not the cheapest. ID Mobile, Lebara, Smarty, and 1P Mobile are a decent bit cheaper than this at the moment. We think spusu's customer service is good, but they have had some issues with their platform since going live in the UK. Their support team is UK based and available over quite a good range of different channels, including via text, over WhatsApp, which we think is quite good because there's nothing worse than having to wait around on hold with a mobile network, although you can call them if you want to. The problem is, spusu customers have been reporting certain issues with their service. People have been having problems with voicemail, number porting taking a long time, and sometimes Wi-Fi calling as well. Despite that though, their overall customer satisfaction is quite good, and their customer support team is pretty helpful. They don't force you to go through a huge AI chatbot sort of thing to get in contact with them, and they're pretty helpful and responsive when you get in touch. They also pay attention to their negative reviews, which is good to see because a lot of providers don't do this. So spusu does have good customer service, and they're easy to get in contact with, which can't be said of a lot of other mobile networks. Just they do have some technical issues that they need to figure out. So should you buy a spusu SIM? If you want cheap access to the EE network, especially if you don't want a high data limit and don't go overseas beyond the EU all that often, or you just want a bit more personalized customer service rather than being just another number with a bigger network, spusu is worth considering. There are some downsides though that it's worth keeping in mind. Firstly, their 5G speeds on EE aren't the best, and their unlimited data contract is pretty expensive. So what we recommend doing is, click the link in the description to greensmartphones.com to find the cheapest SIM-only deals on the market when you're watching this, no matter how much data you need and what networks you want to use. And if you have any questions about spusu or about choosing a mobile carrier more broadly, drop us a comment below and we'll reply as soon as we can.